Peters. My name's Tom
All
White.
right.
I'm
Uh,
sorry.
sorry. Hello and welcome to the October Indiana Clean School Bus Consortium webinar. We are thrilled to have you all today with us. My name is Danielle Hayes. I am the Communications and Marketing Coordinator for Drive Clean Indiana, and I am happy to be hosting this month's webinar. We do have some important content planned, including a presentation by our guest, Tom White, and an update from the EPA. After our presentations, we will be holding a Q&A, so please feel free to go ahead and put your comments and questions into the chat at any point, and we will review them at the end. Just to review, all mics are muted on this, and we will be recording this. Please also do find past webinars on drivecleanindiana.org under the Resources tab. For our new guests, Drive Clean Indiana is a 501c3 nonprofit that is the sole Clean Cities and Communities Coalition designated by the DOE throughout the state of Indiana. We have a set mission to enhance the U.S. energy and economic security through valuable partnerships that promote the reduction and dependence of imported oil and fuel-saving technologies. Through this mission, we improve air quality, create local jobs, drive economic growth, and truly just enhance the quality of life. And a few months back, we did go ahead and we covered this a couple times, but just to reiterate and review it once again, we did have some awardees for the 2023 EPA Clean School Bus Rebate. These are those. I will let you go ahead and view those. Otherwise, we did recently have the 2024 Indiana Volkswagen settlement for the School City of East Chicago and School City of Hobart. They both got LPG buses. So exciting for them. Congratulations to those awarded. And moving forward, we do have our guest, Tom White, here. So without further ado, I'm going to go ahead and let Tom take over.
Good morning, everyone. Danielle, can you see my screen?
Yep, you are good.
Perfect. Well, I appreciate the opportunity to talk about heaters. What I'd like to do is give you a little background on Eberspaecher and the different heater options that are available and how they can be installed on in this case, school bus. So we're a company that was founded in 1865 by a fellow named Jacob Eberspaecher in a town of named Esslingen, Germany, which is near Stuttgart. Jacob was in the glass business. The company is still family owned. It's grown considerably. In the 1930s, we got into the muffler business, and then in the 50s, we started mass production of fuel-operated heaters. From there, we developed catalytic converters. Basically, today, we manufacture everything from the exhaust manifold to the tailpipe. If I'm not mistaken, I believe we're the largest exhaust manufacturer in the world. A lot of that's done in the U.S., but I'm going to skip some of this information here. But we acquired an AC company in France in 2018. With that, it has expanded our product portfolio in climate control systems. Today, the company has about 10,000 employees in 29 countries, which includes all of North America, most of Europe, Asia, South Africa, and even Brazil. And then we do manufacturing in many of those countries, which includes the U.S. We have a plant in Brighton, Michigan, where we manufacture exhaust systems, as well as Louisville. There's three divisions of the company. We have the exhaust division, we have climate control systems, and then we have automotive controls. I'm part of the climate control systems division of the company. And as you can see here, it's not only fuel operated heaters. There are various other climate control components that we manufacture. As I mentioned with Calori, we make air conditioning systems. And then another heater in particular at the bottom here is what is described as a high voltage coolant heater. This is a PTC heater that's standard on electric cars. In the last 5 or 6 years, I believe we have manufactured over 10 million of these heaters. But what I'd like to talk about today is over here in the orange, what we call our fuel operated heaters. There are two types. We have Airtronic air heaters, which work like a furnace. And then we have our hydronic heaters, which is often described as a coolant heater or a water heater. To try to simplify these heaters, there's 4 sizes of Airtronic heaters, and they all have the same appearance now. But we have small, medium, large, extra large. And then we have 3 variations of hydronic heaters. We have small, medium, large, and then there are different sizes within each of those categories. What I'd like to do, we have a video that illustrates how a heater works. And if I can do this successfully, I'm going to share a video that shows how an Airtronic heater works.
No matter where they're used, fuel-operated Airtronic air heaters from Eberspaecher ward off the chill in any application. Now, in the 3rd Airtronic generation, 4 model variants are on an entirely new technological level. When you activate the Airtronic with a control unit, the metering pump delivers fuel to the evaporator. The glow pin has already heated it up. The fan impeller blows air into the combustion chamber, and the air-fuel mixture ignites within. When the combination sensor detects a flame, the glow pin switches off. Combustion is then boosted to the maximum heat level. The controller now compares the temperature you set against the value from the temperature sensor. It continuously adjusts the heating performance by changing the fuel metering pump delivery rate and the fan speed. The Airtronic switches to ventilation mode when it reaches the temperature you want. It interrupts the fuel supply and sets the fan to ventilation. This keeps air from the interior flowing around the temperature sensor. When the interior cools down, the heater starts back up. The 3rd Airtronic air heater generation features a host of advantages and enhanced heating performance in a compact design. Thanks to the new combustion chamber, these heaters can be tilted by 90 degrees to both sides and installed highly flexibly. A diverse range of accessories ensures that the heater fits perfectly in any vehicle. What's more, the integrated altitude sensor guarantees pleasant temperatures at elevations up to 5,500 meters. The optimized metering pump and steplessly controlled heating performance enable quiet operation. The brushless motor is highly durable. The Airtronic is electrically connected to a wiring harness. The EasyScan configuration and diagnostic tool for workshops is also connected here. The The Easy Start Pro and Easy Start Web CAN control units provide maximum versatility. Easy Start Web lets you control the Airtronic from any distance, using a smartphone or through Amazon Alexa, for example. No matter where they're used, Airtronic air heaters from Eberspaecher always ensure the perfect temperature in any vehicle.
Okay, so as I mentioned, we have two types of fuel-operated heaters. We have, as you just witnessed on the Airtronic, heaters that heat air, and then we also have hydronic heaters that are similar in function, only instead of heating air, they're heating coolant. And I have a short video that explains that part of those heaters.
When the heater starts up, it automatically runs a system test. Then the water pump starts and begins to pump the coolant. The glow element heats the evaporator in the combustion chamber. The fan impeller starts up and blows air into the combustion chamber. The fuel metering pump pumps the fuel, which mixes with the air and ignites in the combustion chamber. The flame spreads evenly through the combustion chamber. The heat energy is transferred via the convector to the surrounding coolant. As soon as the flame sensor identifies that the exhaust gas temperature has risen to a predefined level within a specified time, the glow element is switched off. The fuel now vaporizes directly on the hot evaporator and continues to burn. This process allows for efficient combustion with very low exhaust gas levels. The temperature is permanently monitored by the water inlet sensor. As soon as the water reaches 30 degrees Celsius or 86 degrees Fahrenheit, the interior convector fan is switched on. This ensures that the vehicle interior warms up quickly. Up to the point when the coolant reaches around 80 degrees Celsius or around 176 degrees Fahrenheit, the flame is continuously reduced throughout the heating process. The fuel supply via the fuel metering pump is reduced for this purpose. When the coolant temperature reaches 80 degrees Celsius or around 176 degrees Fahrenheit, the control unit switches to the off control stage and interrupts the fuel supply. The fan motor and water pump ensure that the system continues operating in overrun mode. As soon as the temperature of the coolant falls below 65 degrees Celsius or 149 degrees Fahrenheit, the heater is automatically restarted and the coolant is heated again. A key feature of the Hydronic S3 Economy from Eberspaecher is optimal comfort through automatic setting of the ideal fan level and air outlet.
Okay, I hope that gives you a basic understanding of how each of the two heaters work. And something to keep in mind with fuel-operated heaters is that they are completely independent of the vehicle that they're installed on. So whether it's a passenger car all the way up to a locomotive, as long as we have a fuel source and we have access to a battery, then the heater works on its own. So as I mentioned earlier, there are four sizes of Airtronic heaters. And as being a German company, all of our measurements are in metric. So the designations that you see here are 2 kilowatt, 4 kilowatt, 6 and 8. The equivalent in BTUs would be 7,500, 14,000, 21,000, and 27,000. Something of note that's, I think, beneficial with fuel-operated heaters is that they require very little fuel to operate. For example, the 2 kilowatt heater will operate 22 hours on 1 gallon of diesel fuel. the 4 kilowatt 19 hours, the 6 14 hours, and the 8 18 hours. And depending on whether it's running on high or low, the range can vary. So it's actually on the D2, for example, it may run, if it's on high, 14 hours all the way up to 33 hours if it's running on low. But the advantage of air heaters is that they're very flexible in where they can be mounted, where they can be installed. And as you can see here, we have the ability to mount it under the floor. It can be mounted internally, or it can be mounted under the driver's seat or the passenger seat. And that way you're able to locate the heated air where it's most needed. In some cases, you might use a combination of heaters. On the hydronic heaters, again, there's 3 variations. With small, we have 2 sizes, and the designation here, HS3 is hydronic, small, 3rd generation. D5E is diesel gas or diesel fuel, 5 kilowatt in size. Extended life is the E, and then we also have 3 sizes of the medium heaters, which I'll go into some more detail later. But we have the M28, which will operate on 100% biodiesel, completely renewable fuel. M210 and M212. And then on the large series, we have 4 sizes. And as you can see, we have a 16 kilowatt, 24, 30, and 36. Moving forward to school bus application. It's been probably over 20 years now. We've been an active participant with school bus heating with the eGuardian series. And as you can see here, with the hydronic M2 heaters, there's 3 sizes and available in both 24 volt. The eGuardian kit includes the hydronic M212. These heaters are oftentimes used for engine preheat. The heater works on a timer. If you set the timer for the heater to come on at 5:30, at 6:30, the bus is nice and warm. Plus, it includes defrost. But if you notice on this drawing of the bus, you've got different options on where the heater can be mounted. It can be mounted on the frame rail behind the driver area, or it can be mounted behind the rear axle on the frame. And then if you'll notice, there's a coolant circuit that runs through heat exchangers for air heat inside the passenger area, as well as defrost and, in this case, engine. For electric bus, try to imagine that instead of an engine, we can also run the cooling circuit through the battery compartment. This is an illustration of how the heat is distributed, where you have a couple of heat exchangers or more within the passenger area of the bus. And then also for the defrost, and then instead of an engine, it would be a battery compartment. These are some details of the eGuardian kits that are presently available. These are off-the-shelf kits. There's 2 versions. There's one that is 12 volt, and then there's another that's 24 volt. But this includes the boxed assembly that can be mounted to the frame, internal, external heater harness, fuel pickup pipe, fuel metering pump, fuel lines, installation hardware. This one would require a controller that we have options for, and then it would need a fuel tank, which is available through third-party vendors. Under development is a large heater version of the eGuardian. As you can see here, we presently have a 30 kilowatt kit that's available, and we're developing a 16 kilowatt version. With that, with a coolant heater this size, it gives us a lot more power as far as not only keeping the battery warm and defrost, but then with the heat exchangers inside the passenger area for the students. This drawing gives you an idea of how complex a system can be, with a series of pumps, shutoff valves, sensors, and other parts. We can control what direction the heated coolant is passing first, whether it go through the heat exchangers, where it go through defrost, or where it goes through the battery compartment. But there's any number of ways that the coolant system can be looped. To give you an idea, we presently do this on big motor coach buses. And then we also do it on locomotives, where with the school bus, I think it would be a piece of cake in comparison. But to give you an idea, this is an example of a layout of how the plumbing is installed. This is a fuel tank that's available. This is specifically made for school bus. It's a pretty large capacity tank. The nice thing with a tank the size, depending on how much use you have with the fuel operated heaters on an electric bus, you might only have to fill it once a year or just a couple times a year, because the heaters do not require a lot of fuel. We have a calculator. This is an example of how we can determine the size of the heater to install on a vehicle. So for example, on the left side, imagine this, instead of being engine block, being battery compartment. If we know how much difference in temperature we want to increase, so for example, in Indiana, the average low temperature in January is 18 degrees. If we want to increase 40 degrees to get that up near 60, or even maybe a little bit more, but where the battery operates, more efficiently than it does when it's colder, that's part of the calculation that we can use in this calculator. And then with that information, that helps us determine what size of heater. So for example, here we have the Hydronic M12, which is part of the heater for the eGuardian kit that we presently have available. And from that, the calculator helps us determine how long it takes to warm that area up to, in this case, 60 degrees, which would be 26 minutes. So it's actually relatively fast. But depending on the size of the heater, the ambient temperature, and how much space we have to heat, then, all those things come into consideration for how long it takes to heat it up. And on the other side here, we have a calculator for sizing an air heater. So for example, in this, what you see here, you have 7 by 7 by 40, which is about 2,000 cubic feet. It would require 10.9 kilowatts of power output. In this case, it would be recommended to do you could do a series of heaters. You can have one installed, or in the middle of the bus, and then you have one towards the back of the bus, but we could do a 4 to 6 kilowatt heater to produce the needed heat for that arrangement. So here's an area that is I think of value to understand. Um, as we all are finding out with electric vehicles, they don't do so well in cold weather. And for example, here, if you're going to travel 1,000 miles and the temperature stays 72 degrees, that requires, this is a passenger car, so it's probably going to be a little bit more for a school bus, but just to give you an idea of what we're looking at, that would require 333 kilowatt hours of electricity, which at a power plant in Indiana produces about 550 pounds of CO2. When the temperature drops below freezing is when you lose range, and then you also are using an electric heater to keep the cabin warm. Then that requires additional kilowatt hours to maintain that range of 1,000 miles. So in this example, it would be 476 kilowatt hours of electricity, which in turn produces 786 pounds of CO2 at power plant. This is based on a calculation of 1.65 pounds of CO2 per kilowatt hour of electricity produced. Now, if we were to use fuel operated heaters to maintain our capacity, our range capacity, below freezing, you still have the 550 pounds of CO2 that would be produced to provide 333 kilowatt hours of electricity, and then add an additional 200 pounds of CO2 that's emitted from fuel operated heaters. So your total then is 750 pounds. So it's actually going to be less CO2 emitted when using 3 fuel operated heaters than if everything is done through plugging it in for electricity. So to explain that further, fuel operated heater emits 2 pounds of CO2 per hour of operation. To support 1,000 miles of travel, the heaters would operate for about 100 hours, and that includes for preheat, which is an advantage over having to plug in, where when the driver gets into the bus, it's warmed, it's defrosted, and then that also includes the cabin heat. So virtually, you could actually operate the bus on 3 fuel operated heaters without even turning the electric PTC heater on. And then in this example, the 3 heaters is the M212 hydronic heater. And then, as I mentioned earlier in the calculator example, that would also include the Airtronic D4 and an Airtronic D6 inside the cabin. Our heaters are recognized by the EPA. We're listed on the EPA's website as an idle reduction solution for school buses. We've also earned CARB approval, and that's for going back 15, 20 years already. And that's it. So this is my contact information. If anyone has questions, feel free to give me a call or send an email. And yeah, so does anyone have questions?
Thank you, Tom. I'm going to go ahead and put my screen up, and then we could cover questions here shortly. Give me one moment.
Oop,
I don't know what is going on. I am sorry.
did that help?
Yes, there it goes. It goes loading now. Thank you. Alrighty. Perfect. So thank you, Tom, for your insightful presentation. I do appreciate it. I know I learned a lot from that. I'm sure other people did as well. We did get a couple questions within the chat during that. So I'm just going to finish up some slides and we will cover that. Tony unfortunately had to hop off just a minute ago. He had a prior engagement to attend. Otherwise, he did go ahead and drop a link for the EPA program rebates that are coming up that are open. He says they are open until January 9th, 2025, and he encourages you all to go to the website and read the information and apply. So please feel free to follow that link that he provided. Otherwise, feel free to reach out to myself. I have the office number and my email there. I can get you connected with my higher ups and answer any questions you may have. We do have membership opportunities as well. If anyone is interested in being a part of Drive Clean Indiana, you can go ahead and scan that QR code. But we do have a very exciting opportunity that I would like to invite all of you to. It is our React Expo. This is going to be happening on the 20th of November, which is right around the corner. Registration is open, so please go ahead and scan those QR codes. We are featuring a free event on the 19th. Feel free to read more on that or reach out to myself and I can fill you in on any other information on that event. Otherwise, for questions, we did get one from Susan that was for Tom, asking if you could please speak on the emissions of both air and hydronic systems. What pollutants and specific levels are emissions into the cabin or vented outside of the bus?
Yeah, so an airtronic heater is generally mounted on the floor, and then that gives us the ability to run exhaust underneath of the vehicle and then away from passengers. There's also combustion air that comes from outside the vehicle, but that's why an airtronic heater would be mounted onto the floor. And depending on the size of the heater, the emissions is extremely low, and I think we're about 2 pounds of CO2 per hour of operation. Some of the heaters are better. We have the M28, which operates on 100% biodiesel. I believe the emissions for that is about half of what we experience from heaters that are operating on diesel fuel. There's also there's different versions of our heater. Most are designed for diesel, but we have some designed for gasoline. And within that, then we have one heater that's used often in Germany that runs off of ethanol. So with the renewable fuels, then the emissions are going to be less than what we have from fossil fuel.
Awesome. Thank you, Tom. One last one from Linda. Please discuss heat and AC for small commuter buses that wait at train stations idling.
Yeah, so that's a good question, and that's where we're actively involved with the program that came out 15, maybe 20 years ago, DERA, Diesel Exhaust Reduction Act. And with that, there was grant money available that actually paid for having a fuel-operated heater installed. And there are different options, whether it be an air heater, if it's more for cabin comfort for the driver, especially, and then mostly, I should say, and then especially for the passengers. And then also the coolant heaters are often used for idle reduction. And with that, then you have the ability to, as I mentioned earlier in the presentation, with coolant, we can pass hot coolant through heat exchangers for cabin heat, or it can be passed through the dash for the driver, and then also for defrost, and then engine preheat. Anything we can do to reduce running the engine on a diesel powered vehicle is a good thing. And that's the beauty of a fuel operated heater, is that the emissions from a heater compared to a 7-liter engine or even a 13-liter engine is considerably less. The only time a diesel engine or any combustion engine should be running is when the wheels are turning. And with fuel operated heaters, then, we're able to provide the climate comfort that we all desire when it's cold outside without creating all kinds of pollution from the engine.
And Linda just followed up with any air conditioning options.
Yes. Now, the challenge with air conditioning is it requires more electricity to operate. So with there's been advances in battery powered, not generators, but battery powered energy to operate something like an AC system, but the emissions from the challenge again is the requirement of your energy source to run an AC system is greater than what we have with fuel operated heaters. So if we had a battery pack that's able to support that, then you would be able to stay cooler, in the hotter months. But anyway, I hope that answered the question. AC is a little bit different than what we have with heat, but yeah.
Thank you, Tom. Awesome. So that was all for the questions. If anybody had any other, please do feel free to reach out to Tom or myself, and we can get those questions answered for you. Otherwise, thank you all for attending, and I hope to see you all in November and December. Thank you so much.